Hello fam and welcome back to my channel. This is your girl Lillian Francis. It is my goal to make learning Ableton Live as not annoying as possible, so thank you for joining me here today. It is my pleasure. This is part 2 of the How to Make Your Drums Groovier tutorial series. In part 1, we talked about using timing and velocity and moreover the groove pool to create groovy programmed drums. Now we're going to look into how we can process those drums and add some dynamics to make it less static and add some movement and more groove. So fam, let us dive right in. Splash! All right, fam, welcome to my proj. Let's start out by making a little drum beat. Great. Let's check it out. Let's just draw in a little something until it sounds moderately chill. So here's a little drum groove beat situation. And let's just add a little groove since that's what part 1 was about. Why not? Cool, that one's pretty groovy. I'm gonna go ahead and commit this so we can see the changes that it's made here. Just a little bit of groove situation happening. All right, so the first thing we're gonna talk about today is our LFO inside of our simpler fam. So inside each one of these little pads, we have our samples contained on either a simpler or a sampler, which is what these guys are. So let's start with the hi-hats. What we're gonna do is open up the controls that we have in our simpler. And right here in the middle, we have our LFO. Now inside our controls, if you haven't been here before, this is a very handy little area. In this first part here, we have our filter, which we can turn on and off. Hear that? Yeah, we can also change the envelope of the filter by turning it on here if you want that. And then of course we have our amplitude envelope over here. So we can change the sound, but we're not gonna mess with that right now. We're going to look at our LFO here. We have a very handy dandy little LFO. Woo! Guess we gotta get into it now. We have to talk about what exactly is a low frequency otter, a low frequency oscillator. So a low frequency oscillator is an oscillation, i.e. a waveform, zoom, 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 that goes up and down, and it is so low that you do not hear it. It is just used to impart its movement on another parameter, and that is what we're doing here. So there are 4 different parameters we can move using our low frequency oscillator. We have volume, pitch, pan, and envelope. Woo! Okay, now with our LFO, we can choose between some different wave shapes. We can either change it from our sine wave, which is what I was showing you in my demonstration, or a square wave, which just goes up, down, up, down, up, down, or you have your triangle, you have your saws up and down, and then you have random. We're gonna keep it on sine wave for now. Now hertz, what is a hertz? A hertz is the number of times that a waveform cycles in 1 second. So at the speed of 1 hertz, there will be 1 wave cycle per second. At 2 hertz, you'll have 2 wave cycles per second. Before I get too ahead of myself, let's demonstrate this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep my hertz at 1 hertz, and I'm gonna go ahead and turn this volume 100% up. Now 100% on our volume, we're gonna have our LFO changing the volume 100%. It is giving its all to the volume. So let's listen to this. Okay, you'll notice nothing happened. That's because re-trigger is on. So every time the hi-hat goes, this LFO is re-triggered. Therefore, it doesn't even have enough time to go up and down really at all. So I'm gonna turn off re-trigger and then you'll be able to hear it. So every second, our hi-hats are being turned all the way up, all the way down, and then back to middle. Okay, you might hear this a little bit better if we use the pitch. So let's use pitch in this example. If we turn it all the way up, our pitch is gonna go all the way up and all the way down and back to center in 1 fall swoop / hertz. If we turn our hertz, for example, to 0.5, we are going to get 1 cycle every 2 seconds. So let's use pan for this. You're gonna hear that it goes back and forth once in 2 seconds. At 2 hertz, we are going to get it going back and forth twice in 1 second. And let's open up our filter for this guy. When we put our filter at its maximum, which is 24, the filter is going to open and close twice in 1 second. In order for us to hear anything when we have our filter on, we have to make sure that our filter is actually turned on, and go back to frequency here so we can see it. So what you hear with the filter is dependent on where the filter actually is. So if we pull this way back, you're gonna hear it really filtering. And then up here, you're barely gonna hear a dang thing. Now you can also sync your LFO to the beat. So we can go ahead and sync it right now. We're syncing it to 16th notes. Cool. So what does this actually have to do with anything? Well, we can introduce a lot of just subtle variations between our different hi-hat hits by using this guy. So if I go ahead and maybe turn up the volume a little bit, the pitch a little bit, I'm not going to change the pan because we're going to go to a different pan situation later. And maybe the filter just a little bit and give it just a little bit of cruise, a little cruise to its groove. And let's hear this all together. Cool. All right. I like this. At kind of a low setting, it's just introducing a little bit of variation. And as many of you guys may know, like when it comes to music production, it is just implementing a bunch of tiny little changes that don't seem to make a big deal. But when you add them all up, it's what gives a groove a groove. It's what gives our drum beat some movement and some life. Awesome. Okay, so that is our LFO. Let's move on to the next little tip. Let's go ahead and open up our envelopes. Here we can automate our clip inside our clip. All right, so you will see that my hi-hat is already selected here, and I'm gonna go ahead and open up my transposition. And now I can go ahead and change up my little transposition a bit. So maybe I want a little bit of a roll at the beginning. Da-da-da-da. And then down. Cool, that sounds good. Let's try it again, duplicate it. Cool, this is especially fun to do on like trap hi-hats, but you can do them for anything and they just add a little bit of, interest to your hi-hat, so try it out. And the final trick to make our drums groovier today is going to be adding in an audio loop. I like to pull in just like a shaker loop or something, like a percussion loop that's just, given like some feel, and throw that in behind the drums that I program. And then it's like, I made the beat, but it's enhanced significantly by someone else's groove. And like, why the hell not? So what I like to do is just grab a bunch of loops. Sure. Yeah. 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 Cool. Sweet. I'll just load in a bunch of ones I think are cool, and then I will launch my drum beat clip, and then I will just try out some different samples. Yeah. 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 What we can do also now that we have these little loopy doopies in is we can kind of mix them up and do our own thing with them. So for example, I can go ahead in my beats warp mode. I can switch my preserve down to maybe 16th notes or something and make it a little bit choppy chop. So we can bring down our transient envelope here, which makes it a little bit choppier. Cool. That's sweet. Maybe try 8th. Yeah, this is a fun one to do when you're like, oh, can someone else do the hi-hats for me? Just like throw in a little loopy loop and then bring back the transients, and then you have like a little hi-hat loop. You can fuck around with different warp modes. Let's try textures. Yeah, that sounds weird. Cool. And if we transpose it, yeah, that sounds cool. And let's add a compressor on there so it's like working together. So let's open. LOL, does anybody else is Ableton Live do this? When I throw in just my standard compressor, it just goes in as de-esser. I just need to resave my compressor as normal, but I don't know why it does this, and it's very, very silly. Can we not? Let's make like a normal attack and a normal release. If you are sidechaining to a drum groove that has more than just a kick in it and you're only trying to sidechain to the kick, go ahead and use your EQ here. I'm gonna go ahead and set it to our low pass here and pull this guy down to about 200. And this means that when I turn my sidechain on and I ask Ableton to get audio input from my 64 pad kit special, it is only going to be listening to the audio coming from below 200 hertz. So it's just gonna be picking up my kick. So let's check this out. Yeah, hell yeah. So you can go ahead and pull in a loop, mix it up, switch up the warp modes, maybe try reversing it, do whatever you want, and, you know, just try to create like some cool textures, add some like more rhythm and groove with stuff that's already inside of your computer. Maybe let's try a different one. Let's try a little reversey reverse on this guy. I'm gonna hit reversey reverse here. Great. Sounds chill. And you know what? We can also do, let's go ahead and let's solo my hi-hats. And then I'm gonna throw a hybrid reverb on this kit. I'm gonna turn the wet up to 100. I just want a reverb. And let's go ahead and resample them. Cool, so I just snatched a little 1-bar loop of hi-hat reverb. Now let's take this guy away, unsolo this bad boy. All right, now EQing this, we have, let's reverse it. Cool. All right, hell yeah, let's throw on the same compressor onto this guy. All right, there you go, folks. So those are just a couple ways to make your drums a little bit groovier. I hope that this makes you want to just like do like a little groovy dance. So anyways, if you have learned something, if you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and like and subscribe. It would help me expand my channel further into the universe to spread musical joy and less Ableton sucking. Not that Ableton sucks, but you know, like when you're trying to learn, you're like, there's so much to learn. I want to help with that anxiety and make learning Ableton as chill and fun as possible. So thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I will see you next time.